My name is Jessica Gordon Nembhard. I'm professor of community justice and social economic development at John Jay College. The request for reparations started back in the 17 and 1800s, especially right after the Civil War, because at least after the Civil War we had laws in the United States that said that slavery was outlawed. So as soon as we had laws that said that the country recognized that slavery was wrong, that the slave trade was wrong, we've had people petitioning. In the 1790s, there was an organization called the Ex-Slave Mutual Relief, Bounty, and Pension Association, started by a woman named Callie House. And that organization argued that because enslaved people were workers and hadn't been paid, we at least deserved pensions, if not back pay. Once enslavement was over, African Americans were left on their own and had no way often to make a living to support their family. So it's a long movement that's been responsive to all the different levels of enslavement and oppression and economic injustice that African Americans have suffered here on U.S. soil. New York State was a slave state and didn't abolish slavery until 1799. We have all the sins of being a slave state upon us. New York City has the Black Burial Ground Museum, and they actually list all the slave codes and the laws. Black people weren't allowed to be out after dark without a lantern. They couldn't own land. They couldn't testify in court. They couldn't congregate more than 3 people at a time, so they couldn't even go to a funeral. So New York State is complicit on the slavery side, even though we ended slavery earlier than the federal government did. We were actually the last northern state to end slavery. Any of us today who have inherited any kind of wealth, most of that wealth was on the backs of either enslavement, unpaid labor, or benefiting from the slave trade. Even today, because not just of the past, but the cumulative benefits to one group and the cumulative disadvantages to another group, something needs to happen, because what's happening right now is not making up for those. It's still allowing the people who started out with the benefits to benefit more and more, and still leaving other people behind.